In July of 2004, I was asked to fly to Bergen, Norway to be a part of my friend's wedding. I was her maid of honor. And although we flew into Bergen, the wedding actually took place at a little historic rural site about 45 minutes north of Bergen. The site actually contained 3 buildings which we had reserved for about 4 days leading up to the wedding. And it was here that we worked and played and got ready for this Norwegian-American wedding. There were 4 of us that went to elementary school together as kids and have stayed in contact with each other throughout the years and have stayed really good friends. Yvette's fiance is Norwegian, and his family still lives in Norway. At the time, it was cheaper for people from the United States to fly over to Norway than it would have been for his family from Norway to fly over here. So that's part of the reason why the wedding ended up being in Norway. The place we stayed was really quaint, and it was a lot of fun being right alongside the water. But there really was a lot of work to be done, as most of the wedding preparations we took care of ourselves. So friends helped with things like getting the wedding dress ironed and ready to go, getting the glassware personalized, setting up name tags and name plates for the guests. We picked our own wildflowers and made them into centerpieces that were used for the reception. We also had to practice music and make sure the sound systems were set up. We slept on site in the old farmhouse and ate our meals here, and in the evenings, of course, we'd have a great big old bonfire, which was a lot of fun. But then it was back to work the next day. The old boathouse was turned into a reception hall / dining room for after the wedding, and so we had to clean that out, and we decorated it with lights and other ornaments and got the tables set up and got the tablecloths and plates and everything else set up, trying to get as much done early as possible so that there would be very little to do on the actual day of the wedding. But even the day of the wedding, there was a lot that still needed to be done. When Yvette was little, her mom worked in a bakery, and so her mom made this beautiful wedding cake for that day. Of course, a lot of other food preparations had to get started early the day of the wedding so that it would be ready to go by the time dinner was supposed to be served. In Norway, just like a lot of other countries in Europe, the actual legal ceremony for a wedding takes place at the courthouse in a small ceremony, and this was the case with Yvette and her husband. It was just the 2 of them and his best man and myself as maid of honor. And we went to the courthouse and signed the papers, and they were actually legally husband and wife at that point. After the legal ceremony, we came back to our little spot and had a private ceremony that was led by one of our other elementary school friends. She kind of officiated the ceremony. Yvette's dad walked her kind of down the aisle. It was an outdoor wedding, and so he led her up to the spot where the main bridal party stood, and it was underneath a hupa, which is a grouping of leaves and branches that kind of creates a canopy, and this is where this ceremony took place, right alongside the inlet of the fjord. As part of the ceremony, there were some readings by members of both sides of the family, as well as some songs. I sang a duet with Diane, the song You Raise Me Up. Yvette and Joachim each exchanged rings with each other. Karens were also kind of a part of the ceremony. A cairn is a rock formation that is built upwards and traditionally has been used to mark in a path where you might take off in a different direction, and so it kind of carried a lot of symbolism, especially for this kind of new journey that Yvette and Joachim were making in their life together. So we would build cairns around the site where we were, and you can see them kind of in the background of some of the wedding pictures even. Here you'll not only see a cairn in the background, but you'll also see a ceramic bowl and 2 ceramic vases that played a key part of Yvette and Joachim's ceremony. Joachim's parents brought water from a river that ran alongside the house where he grew up when he was little. And Yvette's parents brought water from a lake where she used to play that was nearby their house. And as part of the ceremony, each of the parents took the water that was in the corresponding goblets and poured it into the bowl that Yvette and Joachim were holding. And then jointly, Yvette and Joachim took this bowl of combined water from their childhood and poured it out into the sea. Then with the final vows, sealed by a kiss, the couple was introduced as husband and wife. After the wedding and before dinner, the guests mingled and the bride and groom took a little bit of alone time together. Guests were able to take advantage of an open bar that was set up where homemade mojitos were served. A hired photographer took some photos of the bride and groom at the site and then also took some family photos. The groom, his sister, and his mother all wore bunads, which is the traditional costume of Norway, as did some of the guests. After photos, we had a champagne toast to the bride and groom led by myself as maid of honor and also by the best man. Then it was off to the boathouse for the wedding feast. There was plenty of food and wine. The bride and groom sat at a head table that was for the family members and then myself and the best man. After dinner, the bride and groom cut the cake and fed it to each other. And as part of Norwegian tradition, there was also a Norwegian ring cake that is stuffed with little toys on the inside, so when you lift it off, the babies dangle from a string, and the number of babies that are on the string is supposed to signify how many children the bride and groom are going to have. A band had been hired, and so the bride and groom took the first dance, and after their song, then everybody was able to go out onto the dance floor and enjoy the music. And in fairy tale fashion, a beautiful sunset came in that evening and painted the sky in gorgeous colors. So that's just a little bit about this wedding I was a part of in Norway, and a little bit about how 4 friends from elementary school developed a relationship that not only would span the decades, but would also one day span the globe.